Hello there. As you can see, we have already successfully added the targets. Now we will go to the Chaos Studio again, and once we are here, we can see in the targets that both of the targets should be enabled for our scenario. So here you see VM3 and VM4 both as being enabled for the agent based. Now let's go to the experiment and hit create an experiment. So once you hit create, you're going to select the subscription and a resource group. So remember, we have selected this resource group for our environment, for our testing, which is DevOps, and then we're going to give the name of our experiment. So I'll just mention dev testing. That's my testing because we are doing the testing for this experiment, that hey, how it works and all. So that's what we're gonna select, and you can select the region on which this experiment should be. So for the simplicity, let's select Central US itself. Let's type Central here. So we're gonna select the Central and hit review and create. So while reviewing and create, we need to do the designer as well. In the designer, we need to define a lot of things that we are going to explain in here. Now in the step one, basically steps are the tasks which we are going to define, and under the steps we can have the branches. So what branch means is the execution, like see, the steps will define the steps will be executed one by one, like step 1, step 2, step 3. So under the steps you can have multiple tasks, or in this in simpler term it says that branches. So let me just go back and go to the designer again. Okay, that is fine. So yeah, so I was explaining about the steps and branches. So basically steps are the task which you will add. Like for example, I have two steps, step 1 and step 2. Under one step, you can have multiple branches. So what multiple branches means? It simply means that the tasks under it will be executed in parallel. For example, I have a multiple branches added. So those branches will be executed in parallel. So for example, step 1 has two branches. Let's say step 1, in the step 1 I have one branch called to shut down VM1, and in another branch I have shut down VM2. So in that first step, both the VMs should shut down in parallel, and then first step will be marked as completed. Then the second step will go. To summarize, let's do it in practical. So here I'll just mention the step 1. I'll just mention shut down, shut down VMs. I'll just mention this my step. In the branch 1, I'll just mention shut down VM1. That will be my first branch, and then we have to add an action. So here there are two types of action you can do. Either you can add a delay or a fault. Delay is nothing but you are just saying, hey, delay for, just do a delay for 5 minutes, so it will wait for 5 minutes. That's kind of a delay you can put in. But in this case, we're just going to add a fault, meaning there's a certain set of tasks. That's what I have discussed, or was telling, that you can add a fault. So here a fault is a failure that Chaos Studio will inject in your application. For example, VM shutdown. So in branch we can set up, hey, just shut down my VM. So a branch is just, it's nothing but a fault which Chaos Studio will inject in your application. So for example, if we are saying that, hey, that your VM should shut down in this case, then your VM will go down, and in the next step you are saying that, hey, switch the traffic to different VM in case of a shutdown happen. So I mean, it's just a parallel activity. So in this case I'm going to select, hey, if fault will be the VM shutdown, that you need to make this VM as down. The duration is 10 minutes. Basically it will take, I mean, it will allow, I mean, once it shut down, it will take 10 minutes to do the shutdown, and we are selecting this as an abrupt shutdown, that hey, in case of any abrupt shutdown, then only you should do it. meaning that, hey, shutdown should happen abruptly. Suddenly it will happen once we trigger this experiment. Once we run this experiment, shutdown should happen quickly. I mean, suddenly in 10 minutes. So it will be shut down for 10 minutes. Then in the target resource, you can select what kind of VM it is, which VM you need to select it. So in this case, you can select, let's say, VM1 and hit add. So that will be your first branch. So simultaneously you can add another branch. So here I'm just mentioning shutdown VM1. Likewise, you can mention as shutdown VM2. So that's about the branches and the steps. So each step will be executed only after the above step is completed. For example, in this I'm just mentioning shutdown VM2. Okay, and then add an action, let's say add a delay of some time, let's say 10 minutes, and hit add. So these two steps will be executing simultaneously, and then you are adding a new step to it. Okay, so here you see the step 2 is being added, and then step 1 will be a different one. Here you see a step 1 is the shutdown of the VM, and then we have a step 2. So here in the step 1, these two branches will be executed first, or the subtasks will be executed once, and once this two branches or steps, I mean the tasks got completed, then we'll mark at step 1 as completed, and then the step 2 will begin. So that's all about this demo. In the next, you're going to proceed and understand more on this. Thank you. We'll see you in the next session.